Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Guardians of the Galaxy, starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Lee Pace, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, Jimon Hounsou, and John C. Reilly, and directed by James Gunn. And let's get into this, shall we? Well, before I get there, I just remember liking the movie very much, and what do I think of it? Well, let's take a look. We meet Peter Quill as a young boy on Earth in 1988, while his mother is passing away, and that felt sad, and there were some nice character moments, like Peter sticking up to little frogs, and some kids pick on it with a stick and kills it, and as she passes away, Peter gets abducted in space, and that I felt was a nice but sad prologue. That will be brought up back at the end of the movie. 26 years later, we meet Peter in a different galaxy and played by Chris Pratt, who was in little roles and in a TV show called Parks and Recreation, and was once married to Anna Faris, but as an adult, has some good comedic timing as he's going to get an orb owned by Ronan, played by Lee Pace, and gets encountered by his guard named Korath, played by Jimon Hounsou. Almost abducts him, but Peter gets away with his ship, and can I just say, I love the old school tape player Peter has. It's just awesome introducing today's audience to a tape player. I really love that, because it makes me think of myself, for example. Yondu, played by The Walking Dead's Michael Rooker, is a very good father figure to Peter, but doesn't realize it but Peter doesn't realize it because he's the one who saved Peter from almost getting killed, and I like the character. Ronan almost sends Nebula, played by Karen Gillan, to go after Peter, and Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana, resists that and goes to Xandar after Peter herself. Lee Pace is an actor I've seen in 2 of the 3 Hobbit films, but I don't know how I feel about him as a character, I meant. And Gamora and Nebula are sisters raised by Thanos, and Zoe Saldana I like in this movie, despite she's only one note in this movie. And I think Karen Gillan is very attractive in general, and she plays a very good villain. We go to Xandar, and we get introduced to Rocket Raccoon, voiced by Bradley Cooper, who I like as an actor and in general, and Groot, voiced by Vin Diesel, who I'm a big fan of, and not because of the Fast and Furious franchise, but because of the Iron Giant, which I'll talk more about that in Ready Player One when I get there. But I like them both, despite Rocket being a feisty raccoon, and Groot only saying, "I am Groot." And we get a Stanley cameo where he plays a Class A prevert, which is something I say when someone's being a pervert. I love that line. It busts me up every time. Peter, Gamora, Rocket, and Groot try to either capture the orb or Peter himself. And they all get captured and get taken to the kiln by John C. Reilly's character, who I don't really remember the name of. And I like seeing him again in this movie. And the Nova Prime is played by Glenn Close, who's an actress I haven't seen in years in movies, but I like her in any movie in general. While the Kiln, we also meet Drax, the Destroyer, played by Dave Bautista, who was once known as Bautista in the WWE. And I really like him here. I thought he was really funny as a character in a good way. While in the kiln, we get introduced to Thanos in Sanctuary, who's voiced by Josh Brolin. And he's going to be very menacing in Avengers Infinity War, and for what little he does here, it's good to introduce him in this movie. Peter, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, and Drax escape the kiln, and I really enjoyed that whole sequence. It was just a lot of fun. So they go to this place called Nowhere, where they give the orb to Tadalier Tivon, returned by Benicio del Toro from Thor: The Dark World. And his scene was a little odd because he's a very odd character, but I do like the makeup on him, and I do like Benicio del Toro in general. He was wasted on Star Wars, sure, but I like him here. And I'll talk about him more when I get to Sicario. I really do like the Footloose reference with Kevin Bacon, and I like that they brought up the original Footloose, not the remake. I never seen the original, but I have that yet to see. That pink waitress that we saw in Thor the Dark World that served the Collector is now killed by the purple Infinity Stone after he explains what it does to people versus the world. And that felt weird. The first fight between the Guardians and Ronan and his crew for the orb was somewhat a good piece of action. After they lick their wounds from their defeat, they go with the plan to stop Ronan, and Cherry Bomb is playing in the background. And I must say, I love the soundtrack to this movie. From Come and Get Your Love to I'm Hooked on a Feeling to even Cherry Bomb. It's all old school and it works great. I really like the final action scene from Gamora to versus Nebula to Yondu's crew versus the Nova Corps and the Nova Corps, versus the enemy fighters, Drax versus Karath, to all the Guardians of the Galaxy versus Ronan, to poor adult Groot dying and being reborn as a cute baby tree. That baby Groot, from what we see at the end of the movie, is really cute. And that scene before the credits was really funny, but the whole movie has a sense of humor. The after credits scene with the Collector and some dog who is a comic book character that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head. And of course, Howard the freaking Duck is there. And that is, as an after credits scene, was completely stupid and didn't make me too happy because I hated Howard the Duck as a character in his solo movie. You can look at that review in the archive. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 9.0 out of 10. This movie has action, humor, sad moments, cute moments, and a sense of humor, which made me laugh and had some good character except Howard the Duck. And the soundtrack was old school, and I had fun with this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I will be back next week with Avengers Age of Ultron. And until next time, Avengers Assemble!